Okay, good morning. We are continuing with Hilchos Tarovis. All right. Last we ended up finishing Seif Bet. We're going to start with continuing with Seif Gimel, but I do want to just point out a couple important things to close up. We had the whole discussion of Davar Chashuv, things that are not Batel Afilu Be'elef, right? So a few simanim ago, we had a few examples, but then we were introduced to a more nebulous, less clear. So the Shulchan Aruch gave us some examples. It was helpful 2,000 years ago. In the times of the Mishnah, exactly how to apply it, it's not the most clear. But here, I'll just point out a few things. Let's see. We mentioned it does apply to challah, homemade challahs in your home. So that seems to be a pretty clear halacha. I don't think anyone argues. However, I will just point out that, because when a woman or anyone makes challah in their home, it's valuable. They don't want anything to happen to it. They want to eat it, and if they don't need it this Shabbos, they'll freeze it for the next. So I think we can all agree with that. And Pashtus, it seems very clear from most of the poskim, the Shulchan Aruch, Nosei Kelim on the page, Aruch HaShulchan, wherever, Beis Yosef, it applies to regular bread that we use, regular wheat. But I'm just pointing that out because there are some who point out that it only applies to challah that's from the flowers, from orla, from kilei kerem, or truma. And I agree, I find that to be a little strange, but I'm just saying what they write. That there is no orla on flour, exactly. So I'm just pointing that out there, and I don't understand it, but I just point it out there because, anyway, the cases that it's discussed is in Maseches Orla. And so I've seen some write that it's referring to Kikarosh Balabait of these items, and it does not seem to make any sense because it's baking it in your house that turns it into chashuv. It has nothing to do with what kind of flour it is. I just mentioned that for completeness. Now, for davar chashuv, we can discuss more later. For davar chashuv, I spoke to Rabbi David, and he agrees that as far as, it's hard to be magdir exactly, but anything that is very special, rare, expensive, and it's sold by an exact amount. It could be by bottle, it could be by the number, not just rough estimates. And it's sold as a whole item. Also, the Mishnah in Orla Gimel Chet, I think, is where it says that the only time davar chashuv is a problem, you guys mentioned yesterday, is if it's whole. If it's cut up in little pieces, now the item is not davar chashuv anymore. It's just pieces. It's not so important. And we learned by an open barrel. All these things, it's not davar chashuv only when it's sealed and complete. So if it's a rare, expensive bottle of wine, then it's probably not batel afilu be'elef, and that's also mentioned by Psakim and Chuvos. Again, I'm sure there's going to be on certain items, it'll be a little bit up to the each individual or posek to figure it out. But in general, it does apply this halacha. The Kaf HaChaim points out that that davar chashuv it only applies if it's an exact amount. We basically just said that. The Kaf HaChaim also writes that if you just sell it by the bag and you're not exact, then that's not right. Davar chashuv, you wouldn't sell like that anyway. Okay. I did mention yesterday, I just about better, the Shulchan Aruch himself, the Beragola brings it, but the Beis Yosef himself says, when it comes to davar shebeminyan, it's not a problem for the Shulchan Aruch at all. And the eggs, where he says it is a problem in Pevav, that's because it has a din of a birya, nothing to do with davar shebeminyan. So there's really should be no suffix on the matter. Okay, so we'll for those who missed the Beis Yosef. An egg, it could be a davar shebeminyan. So if you're the Ramah or Ashkenazim, you'll be machmer. If you're Sfardim following the Shulchan Aruch, you don't have, it is batel. except eggs are not. Shulchan Aruch doesn't hold a davar shebeminyan being a problem. It is batel, berov, or shishim, or whatever the number is. But when but the Sfardim, the Kaf HaChaim would be machmer by beitzim, because the Shulchan Aruch says it by beitzim, because there it's mishum beria, mishum efroach, the chicken side. Okay. Right. As far as being whole, I mentioned that was the Mishnah, Beferush. Aruch HaShulchan points that out as well. And we mentioned that. Okay, just also, I think we mentioned yesterday, just to clarify, something that's not always sold b'minyan, but usually sold b'minyan. So there, that's a machlokas, that's the Maharshal, who's more machmer than the Ramah. And the Taz and Shach are more machmer, like the Maharshal. So the Maisa, Ashkenazim should be machmer, with davar shebeminyan, even if it's not always, but usually, unless it's hefsed meruba, then they're meko. Now, there's an interesting machlokas by davar chashuv, if it only applies by bemino, or also eno mino. The Shulchan Aruch only mentions by mino. So the Gra holds, he says, according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's only if it's mino that a davar chashuv is not batel. We get this chumrah of davar chashuv, because it's all the same, and it's such a davar chashuv. The Shach and most poskim say it applies to even she'eno mino, because a davar chashuv also, it is a davar chashuv, it doesn't matter who it's next to. Okay? One other thing important, if you get any of these items that are not batal, it's too difficult to be batal, because it's not even batal shishim or barov. And if you have elef la batal, so now you have this entire mixture. What are you going to do? It applies to all kinds of isurim. Most poskim say it applies to isuri derabanan as well. That's knesset gadola, pri magadim v'chulei. The crazy might be a das yachid who says he's not. It doesn't apply to isuri derabanan, and they weren't going there. But anyways, it applies to isuri hana, and it applies to many aspects in halacha. So the whole thing becomes achser. But the shach and the poskim point out that there is a way out. Is you sell the whole thing minus the value of that item that got mixed in. So let's say the value of $100 gets mixed into items that are worth $1,000. So you can sell the whole thing for $1,000, or you throw away you figure out not to benefit from that $100 out of the $1,100 if it has to be sold. In other words, or whatever. So that's the demay of the Isser that it was batel in there. That part you do not benefit from that.
Assuming you're selling it together.
It depends what the issue is. It could be that everything else is mutter for Jews and that one item. Okay, it depends what you're doing with it. Ahana, achila, correct.
That thing itself would have been mutter to sell separately to a goy.
So it all depends case specific. I'm just pointing out to you that it's not game over just because you have one tiny davar chashuv or tiny davar shebeminyan, one egg. Now it can answer a whole room of merchandise. I don't know, just whatever, a whole room of eggs. Whatever the issue is, there is a way out. Important. Every case specific. Fine. I think that'll wrap up for the most part. Let's start the sugya of Teisha Chaniyos, and we'll have to probably finish another day. Let's start with Seif Gimel. Okay, now this is a very important sugya, because it comes up in pretty much in every area halacha. It can apply to ribis. It can apply, you'll see when we get there, it can apply to all kinds of cases where it's a case of a suffix, and the question is, do you go after rov or do you not go after rov? And generally, if you do not go after rov, you have to be machmer. That's generally the case. So, but it depends. Okay, okay. Let's read inside. Let's start reading inside, and then we'll give you a little more background real quick. Teisha chaniyos mochros basar shchuta. So you have 9 stores, and 9 stores, or slaughterhouses. That's not the right word. Butchers. Okay. Now I'll tell you why slaughterhouses will come up later. But and chaniyos. Okay. We're talking about, simply put, these are 9 stores. You know where they are, and you know that everything in there is kosher. Basically, there's ki'ilu, a label on each store. Everything in here is kosher. That's the case. It's not. There's not like you're not selling both items inside the store, and you know exactly. Okay, what's going on? And then you have another store in the same city where they sell the whole everything in the store is nevela. It's non-kosher. Lakach me'achas mehen. Now, you go into one of the stores and you go buy from them a piece of meat. Ve'ein yadua me'ezeh mehen lakach. And then, I don't know, you're so farmished about a business deal, a family issue, you're stressed, you walked in, you bought, you left, and now you don't even know which store you went into. They're all lined up together, they all look the same. Obviously, one guy's name is going to be Yossi, and the other guy's name is going to be Jose. One's kosher, one's not, but everything else, but you lost your mind, and you don't know which store you bought it from, right? And it's not, there's no stamp on the package telling you, there's no ashkacha on it. There was only ashkacha on the store, not on the item. So what do? Hareza aser. Even though the majority of the stores, 9-1, are kosher, right? It's still, your piece of meat has a din of 100% aser deraisa. Shekol kavua kamechta al mechta dami. Because whenever you're dealing with something that's kavua, okay, big sugya, how do you define kavua? But basically, you're looking at the stores, they're attached to the ground, they're not moving anywhere, and you know that it's kavua. Okay. It has a din of kavua, it's permanently there per se. It doesn't have to be permanently forever. It just means for right now. It could be very temporary. I don't know, for a day, maybe even a few hours. That's a whole sugya. But if it's a store, I don't know, we have ice cream trucks. If they're driving by and they're going to be here for a minute, stop and then move on, that's not kavua. But something longer, okay, at some point it becomes kavua. Aval, basar hanimsa beshuk. If you find meat in the marketplace, or biyad goy, in the hand of a goy. In other words, you didn't buy it from the store, and it wasn't in the store. Obviously, it may have started out in the store, but when you found the piece of meat, it was not in the store anymore. So then, it's mutter. Now it's 100% mutter. Why? Because the majority of the stores are kosher, and we're assuming you came from one of the stores. They call the parish meruba parish, and whatever comes, and so they go off the roof. Whenever something is parish, when it's separated from its kavua place, now it's loose in the open makom tzibori and public domain, and now so then we say it's off the roof. Zibin Torah. Now that's the halacha midoraisa, and usually everything we just said now it's gzeras hakasuv. I'll explain a bit more. And the truth is, this is also the din halacha lamaisa, but aval chachamim asru. In other applications of halacha, we will usually say kol kavua kamechza mechza dami and kol parish meruba parish, and you go off the roof. In this specific case, aval chachamim asru, because it's a piece of meat. Remember, and alpha pisha kol shochtim kol mochrim yisrael. Even though the majority or all the shochtim are kosher, even if all 10 stores would be kosher, it would still be aser. Nothing to do with the din of rov and kavua and parish. It's because aser chachamim, anytime you have a piece of meat, shenitalem min ayin. It's a separate issue. That's what I'm just pointing out to you. Okay, that the chachamim asru because basar shenitalem min ayin, nothing to do with the derabanan on halachas of rov. Okay. 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 Now the Shach just points out, even if it's a chaticha ha'uyele ischabe, the same halacha applies, whether it's kavu or parish, if you go after rov, or not, depending on the case. Okay. Fine. Let me just go back real quick. Short intro. This is all based, because it's such a basic sugya, it's good to know where it all comes from. It comes from the last parak the end of the first parak of Ksubas Tetvav, and that's really where the whole sugya is. And it's learned out from the pasuk, Ve'arav lo ve'kam alav, regarding if a person aims to kill one person and accidentally kills another person. So it's a whole machlokas. I don't want to get too deep into that sugya, but basically, if a person, so it's a machlokas if you intend to kill one person and you end up killing another person, if you're chayav misa for that. So here the case was, you threw in a stone into a group of people. They're all standing there, they're all hanging out. I'm not sure for how long, but they have a din of kavua, actually. They're not just walking right by. They're having, I don't know, maybe they're having a seuda or a party. I'm not exactly sure. A sugya over there. But the case is, you have a group of people there. And so the Gemara's back and forth, mostly Jewish, mostly non-Jewish. Anyways, bottom line, for our purposes, is the Gemara has, it's a gzeres akasuv, all of them point out, the Ran and others. It's a din d'oraisa, that you might think you go after rov. In other words, if you say you kill one person, you aim for one person and you killed another person because you were aiming to kill them, according to the opinion, it says you're going to be chayav. So it's the extra limud of arav lo. You had extra kavana to kill him. But anyways, that's the whole thing over there. But the main point is that you don't go after, let's say there's a group of 10 people and you aim to kill one, and it might only apply for Jewish or not versus non-Jewish. So the point is, you don't go after, are most of the people Jewish or most of the people non-Jewish? And the point is, the din is, it's a special gzeres akasuv, and because it's kavua, they're considered kavua, we don't say you go after the majority like you normally do. It's based on the gzeres akasuv, the arav lo, you do not give him misa, you do not go after the majority. Okay, so the point is, from that Gemara we see, whenever you have a kavua of group, and you can look at the people and you can see who they are. If it's a bunch of stores and you don't know which one is the treif and which is the not treif, machlokas, but most say that's not called kavua. It has to be when it's recognized, you know which is the treif and which is the not treif, as we mentioned. And the Shach brings that down as well. Anyways, so anytime you have a kavua case and you don't go after rov, and therefore the din is mechza al mechza, and it's a suffix. You don't go after rov, it's a suffix. So for that pasuk, you don't get misa. But for our purposes, that's the limud that we get from there. And I'll just bring down in Psakim Mechuvos, he quotes Shita Mekobetzis and Tashbetz, who tries to give a little bit of a hesber. Really, it's a gzeres akasuv. But the hesber that they give is because anything that has a place, or it's considered kavua, there's an element of chashivus involved. And since it's an element of a davar chashuv, again, all those halachos that we learned in the Shulchan Aruch, davar chashuv, davar shebeminyan, and all those things, the Rambam, and it's clear, to davar pashut, those are all things only midarabanan. So I don't want you to get mixed up, but he's giving a little bit of a hesber into the din daraisa, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided. And of course, al pi hesber you can go either way, but that's what. And then the Chazon Ish has a little bit different, and he says because anytime it's kavua, it's nikar, and so therefore it's not really appropriate to maybe. I don't know. I don't know if appropriate is the right word, but anyways, since it has a din of, since it's stationary and you know what store is which store, and it's like nikar, that place, the source of the, in a sense, the source of the suffix, then you don't go after rov, because it's not like just mixed in and completely unidentifiable. Whenever something becomes more identifiable, then that's when you're less likely wanting to be mekel and say batel barov. Okay, let's go on. Oh, there's a very interesting Pischei Tshuva, perhaps famous, I'm not sure. I've heard that anytime you know something or you recently read it and you remember it, so then you think it's famous, but it's like it's for you it's famous, not always for someone else. Right. It's the only one you know, so it's famous. Okay. Anyways, it's Pischei Tshuva Bet. So it's an interesting case. And it happens to be, I believe, a machlokas achronim how to deal with it. So we'll just leave it like that. But what's the interesting case is, let's say you have 9 kosher butchers, 9 kosher butcher shop, and one that's treif. But the one that's treif sells, I don't know, millions of kilos or pounds a year, and the other ones, they sell, I don't know, a few thousand every year. So you add up all 9, and it's so much less than that one that's non-kosher, or whatever the example might be. But do you go after the number of stores, or does the amount that they sell make a difference? So, anyways, I'll just leave that as food for thought. Okay, let's continue. We have to finish the Ramah. We're in the end of Gimel. Right, that's where we are? Yeah. V'hadamrinan. Kol de parish meruba parish hainu shelo pirish lefanenu. Aval im pirish lefanenu o sheroeh keshagoy lakho have ki'ilu lakho misham biyado. So he just points out that when do we say kol de parish, it's if you find it in the street or you find it in someone's hand. Again, we're ignoring the issue of basar shenisal min ayin, which again, if it's packaged, it's sealed, doesn't even apply anyway. We're not going there. So the case is, the only time we say this halacha is if you completely find it fresh, in the open, and totally detached from the store. But let's say you saw it go away from the store. Your friend bought it, took it from the store. A goy took it from the store, and you saw it happening, but you and the goy don't remember, or you don't trust him, you don't know which store it came from. So that's still called Kavua because you saw it. It's as if you were in the store yourself and took it out. The Shach on the next page is going to mention that it happens to be well, depends which version you have, but it's either a machlokas. I mean, this din, this caveat of the Ramah, it might be a din d'Rabbanan, it might be a din d'Oraisa. Ayin Sham, machloket Rishonim. But the din is the din. That's already going to be considered. That if you see where it comes from, even though you weren't the one who took it out from the store physically, that's still called kavua. And let's see. Right. The suffix has to completely start where it's in a public place or detached place. That's the more accurate, detached. Okay, Daled. Let's try and read this one. Rov chanios machros basar shchuta. Okay, in most of the stores they sell kosher meat. Umiyut machros basar nevela. And a minority, one of them is basar nevela. Lakach me'achas mehen ve'ena yodea me'eze mehen lakach. So you bought it from there. You just don't know which one. But so you have this one piece of meat. You don't know where it comes from. The majority of the stores are all kosher, but now it has a din, a mamish din of iser because it's mechza. So it's a suffix. That's right. It still has a status of a suffix, but you don't go after rov, so it has a din of a suffix. Very good. Veda nikeras, and you can't tell where it's from. So, but then it gets mixed in with another group of pieces of meat that you know those are all kosher. Veda nikeras, and you can't tell between them. So then betel barov. Now this case is batel barov. Because mishum safek sveika, because of it's a double suffix. Right? You don't know which store it came from, and now it's mixed in. You don't know which one of the pieces is. So they're all kosher. The Shach just points out, though, but again, this goes back to our previous halacha. Just don't eat them all at once. V'yesh haga, v'yesh osrim b'kai gavna, and the Ramah is machmer, and he says, wait a second. Mishum de kol makom de eser bimkomo have kamechza al mechza. Because anytime the eser becomes aser because of mechza al mechza, and so it has that itself makes it like a davar aser, and that doesn't count as a suffix. V'hoil the suffix harishon aser minatara, since it's aser minatara, so the din minatara turned it into an eser. So you lose that suffix. Ve'ein kan Od sfeika lahater, raka tarovis. And so you're back to one suffix of it got mixed in tarovis. Lo mikre sfeik sveka. It's not called a sfeik sveka in this case. V'hachi nahog, and that's the minhag. Not sure. Okay, I think we'll stop right here.